I would like to welcome everyone to the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend's second annual Shield of Hope fundraiser event. Of course, our setting is uniquely very different this year, but we are still very excited to be sharing this event with you. My name is John Thomas Cobos with KIII, and I am a board member, and I'd like to welcome all of you as you help us bring hope to others in the Coastal Bend. We want to thank our sponsors for contributing to make this event possible. And more importantly, you have contributed to helping as many people get their needs met through the work of the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend. We especially want to thank our event sponsor, Victory Building Team, for your generous contribution to this event. And to all of our sponsors, because of you, someone will have enough to eat tonight. Someone will have decent clothes to wear. Someone will have shelter. Someone will receive gifts for Christmas. Someone will learn the skills they need to survive and succeed, and someone knows there's at least one person in this world who cares. This world is a better place because you gave, so thank you. We also want to recognize our honorary chair, Loyd Neal. You know him as the former Nueces County Judge, Mayor of Corpus Christi, an advocate for those in need, and get this, a member of the Texas A&M Corps of Cadets. So thank you, Loyd Neal, for being an honorary chair. We're going to open our program with the invocation from Lieutenant Laura Gessner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you pray with me? Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the opportunity to raise funds to do your work in the Coastal Bend. We thank you for the Shield of Hope fundraiser and the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend. We especially thank you today for the sponsors who have given to make this day possible, and so many things possible for the next year. Lord, we thank you for the funds that have been raised, and we also pray a special blessing on those sponsors. Lord, we also pray for those who will be on the receiving end of the works of the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend made possible by these funds. We pray that when they come to us in need, that they leave and are satisfied and their needs are met. And Lord, most of all, we pray that they know that you have been part of it all. Lord, we pray that you continue to bring people forward to help those who are in need. And Lord, I also pray a special blessing on our speaker today. In Jesus' name, amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892 and after a few modifications has been recited by school children, public officials, and citizens like you and I ever since. You know the words, and you remember to place your right hand over your heart. So please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We on the Salvation Army Board are grateful to Victory Building Team for once again being our event sponsor this year. Not only has Victory Building Team stepped up for the second year in a row, they have also volunteered many hours in our food pantry, Vacation Bible School, Red Kettles, and participated in the Decorated Kettle Contest. I'm honored to introduce Jeremy Ball with Victory Building Team to say a few words.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Ball, and I'm the president of Victory Building Team, and we are proud to sponsor the Shield of Hope fundraiser. We're excited to be a part of the Salvation Army family and share in their mission to support the Coastal Bend. Our team is building the new Center of Hope facility, and it is roughly 65% complete. Once complete, the facility will bring a helping hand to the community and a message for hope for a brighter tomorrow. Our team has been fortunate enough to help with numerous fundraisers and events that the Salvation Army holds to help the local communities. We understand their mission and we know their love for the Coastal Bend. There are lots of opportunities to give throughout the city, and the Salvation Army is constantly doing the most good. Thank you, Salvation Army, for having an impact on our team and the community. We will continue to support you and encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
We also want to recognize our platinum sponsor, Tom Wimberly. Tom is a long-time board member, and he's also an advocate for the Salvation Army. You know him as a class act and a great guy.
Hey, I'm Tom Wimberly, and I'm honored to be a sponsor of this event. Now, I have a story to tell, and I do have a point to make at the end of it, but that'll come a little bit later. I am a very lucky guy. I spent 31 years in the Navy. I flew jet fighters off of aircraft carriers. That is an experience that you can't buy at any price. I did spend a lot of time away from home, away from the family, flying from the decks of aircraft carriers, 9 aircraft carriers. Some of my trips to sea were short ones, but 9 cruises were lengthy, 7 months or more. I have visited every continent except the Arctic and the Antarctic. After retiring, I sold insurance and securities for 5 years, and I worked for a defense contractor that specialized in aircraft maintenance for military aircraft. At age 62, I sort of gave up working and started a lot of extensive involvement with not-for-profit activities. In the Navy League of the U.S., I was the president of the local council right after Loyd Neal and just before Jim Scott. I was the Texas state president for several years and a member of the National Board of Directors of the Navy League for 10 years. I attended 10 national conventions. I was in the group that worked on obtaining the Lexington for Corpus Christi, and I'm in that group of individuals who were named Landing Force 16. There were 16 of us. I've been on the Lex Board of Directors since she came here as a museum ship. I served for 5 years on the board of the Del Mar College Foundation. I got involved in the fraternity of Freemasonry rather late in life at the age of 61. I have held leadership positions in lodges and in the York Rite and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. I am a Shriner. In the York Rite, I am a recipient of the Order of the Purple Cross, and in the Scottish Rite, I am a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason. I am a patron of the Grand Lodge of Texas Library and Museum. I was leader of a Scottish Rite organization which taught dyslexic children to read at no cost to the parents. We continued that effort until the parents were able to obtain equal quality instruction for their afflicted students in the public schools. When we closed, we gave our remaining funds, $10,000, to the Del Mar College Foundation, or the Del Mar College Center for Early Learning. Our funds had been raised by donations from the Masonic fraternity. In the National Rifle Association, my membership is at the benefactor level. Now, the point I said I would make, the organization in which I have the most pride in being a member and a financial supporter, the Salvation Army. I've been on the advisory board for 15 years or so and had the honor and pleasure of serving as president for about 5 years. When I brag about anything, the Salvation Army is at the top of my brag sheet. A local citizen for whom I have great respect has been quoted as saying, "Earn as much as you can, save as much as you can, and give away as much as you can." The Lord has been good to me, and I have tried to live up to that guidance. To anyone who will listen, I brag that when you financially support the Salvation Army, almost all of your donation goes to the actual good work. Only about 11% of it goes to overhead, salaries, administrative costs, and so forth. The same is definitely not the case with many not-for-profit organizations who ask for donations. With the Salvation Army, you get more bang for your buck. I thank you.
We also want to thank our many volunteers who have supported the work of the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend. Whether it was helping to provide for the homeless, helping to pack food boxes for those who are hungry, working with at-risk youth in our community, volunteering in the shelter dining room, giving school supplies to at-risk children, making Christmas magic for hundreds of children, donating clothing and household items for those in need. You have made a difference. It does not matter how great or how small, you have made a difference in our city. Volunteers continue to be our shining stars in helping the Salvation Army best serve our community and the shining stars of Corpus Christi. Although you don't help others for the recognition, we want to recognize and thank you for all you do. Advisory Board Member of the Year. This award goes to the advisory board member who was the most supportive. This board member has served on our board for 1 year and has been most generous in his giving and support. This year's award goes to Garnett Brooks. Catalyst Award. This distinguished award goes to an individual who has furthered the mission of the Salvation Army and made change possible for many. This year's Catalyst Award goes to Philip Ramirez.
Our homeless journey started like years and years and years and years ago, like 15, 20 years ago, when we both started using drugs and drinking a bunch. And we were both at a point in our lives where we couldn't, it was either going to go one way or the other. It was either going to, the substance abuse issues that we had were either going to explode into a big giant tire fire or we were going to fix it. It got really bad. You know, we lost everything we had a couple times over. And then we finally lost our place to live and made the decision to move to Texas to try to get clean.
I found myself without a home for the first time in 62 years. I found myself without a home last year, right before Thanksgiving. My wife and I were still married, but we were just separated until I get everything together down here in Corpus Christi. During the time I was homeless, I experienced a lot of things. I was going through a lot of drinking and just being depressed. not thinking I was worth anything. Somebody told me that Salvation Army has a veteran program. So I said, well, good, that's what I need. I need to be in touch with the VA, stuff like that. So I came here June the 6th of this year, 2020, and I've been here ever since in the veterans program.
It all ended up with us losing the place that we had to live, and as a result of our actions, and we ended up pretty much on the street having to fend for ourselves, and that persisted for about 1.5 years, and between mostly in Phoenix, the last little bit of it was here in Corpus, and when we got down here, that's where we slept, was right there. And I came to the Salvation Army, and they got me the Texas Veterans Grant, and I got a place to live, and I have family in the church, so I thought, there's a reason I'm here. Maybe I need to go back to church, and I did. The rest is history.
So when I found Salvation Army, it really helped me get back on my feet and helped me stay positive, helped me stay focused on what I need to do. And now I'm currently working for the city of Corpus. So I work Park and Recreations for the city of Corpus. Just started this week, so they've really been helpful. I've had no problems.
I believe that God was always there in both of our lives.
There was like so many different ways that we tried to fix things, like over the 3 years before that, and this was the only thing that just finally stuck.
We were trying to get clean, and we were falling off after 3 or 4 weeks, but we weren't going to church. That wasn't something, we didn't have God in our life. When we got here and we got God in our life, everything changed. We actually stuck to it. It's now been 2 years since either one of us has used. Mm-hmm. So
and that's the longest by far.
That either one of us has gone without drinking or using a substance since we were 14.
Never thought in 60 years I'd be homeless. I used to see people with signs, please help, need food, and here I am. I didn't have to go that far, to standing on the street panhandling, but through the right, steps and the right contacts, I was able to get here, and y'all invited me with open arms. And I really appreciate Salvation Army for allowing me to stay here once again and allowing me to be part of the program. My goals moving past this place is to, like I say, I'm currently working. That's the first step. My other goal is to get housing and to get my wife down here so we can be as one again. I hadn't seen my wife since, November of last year. And when COVID hit, it kind of threw a little wrench in our, in our relationship. But we talk every day, and the kids are all grown, so it's just gonna be her, myself, and my Chihuahua. So we're looking forward to being here in Corpus and spending the rest of my life here in Corpus. And I always will remember Salvation Army, always.
And to the people that donate to help the church, I think it's a good thing you do. Being that I've been involved with the church my whole life because my grandparents were officers, I see firsthand what it does and how many people it helps. And I'm actually the recipient of that help also. So I've seen both sides of it, and your money's going to the right place, and it's a good thing to do.
Well, thank you everybody for being here today and being part of this fundraiser and a part of this event with General Ramirez. I'm here to talk to you just briefly about our new Center of Hope. The Center of Hope Phase 1 will be completed within the next year. In fact, it'll be done either by this December of 2020 or January of 2021. And what this is going to do, the new Center of Hope is going to increase our capacity to help families with children and veterans. We are going to go from 70 beds, which we currently have for families with children, to 120 beds for families with children. And we'll go from 10 beds reserved for veterans to 12 beds. In addition to that, we will also have a state-of-the-art kitchen and dining room and better office facilities to help the Salvation Army look to the future for the next 50, 60 years here in the Coastal Bend. So that'll be coming at the end of this year or the beginning of January of 2021. But we're also beginning the design stages with Turner Ramirez Architects for stage 2 of the Center of Hope campaign, which will be our single men's dorm and our food pantry. Now, with phase 1 and phase 2, we are still looking for donors. Phase 2, we are just beginning underway with the drawings and the plannings, but phase 1 still needs a few more donations to make sure we are not having to have a mortgage on the facility. So if you're interested in becoming partners and learning how you can help fund phase 1 or phase 2 of our Center of Hope project, please reach out to us or visit us on our webpage, and we would love to talk with you about it. Phase 2 is going to also increase our capacity for single men. So it'll go by about 10 to 15 beds as well. So again, these are increased capacities for us at the Salvation Army to increase more needs, because the needs here in the Coastal Bend keep increasing, especially with COVID. But we as the Salvation Army are committed to being here and to serving those in need in Jesus' name without discrimination. So thank you for attending today, and please, if you want more information on our capital campaign and how you can become a partner with us in preparing for the future, please reach out to us at the phone number or the website. Also, please remember that you are part of what we do. The Salvation Army could not do what we do and be a success if it weren't for donors like you. May God bless you.
I'm honored to introduce our guest speaker for the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend's 2020 Shield of Hope fundraiser, Brigadier General Joe E. Ramirez, Jr. The Brigadier General is a native of Houston and is a graduate of Texas A&M University, where he was a member of the Texas Aggie Band and the Corps of Cadets. He received his commission in the United States Army Field Artillery from Texas A&M in 1979 as a distinguished military graduate. During his 31 years in military service, General Ramirez commanded soldiers around the world and served in leadership positions in various joint and operational commands. He was the Deputy Chief of Staff for the United States Central Command during Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, and was the Deputy Division Commander for the 2nd Infantry Division in the Republic of Korea. His most recent assignment was Deputy Director for Strategy, Plans, and Policy for U.S. European Command in Stuttgart, Germany. General Ramirez holds a bachelor's degree in physical education from Texas A&M, a master's degree of management from Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri, and a master's degree in strategic studies from the United States Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. His numerous military awards include the Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Korean Defense Service Medal, and the Parachutist Badge. He is now the Commandant of the Texas A&M University's Corps of Cadets. Please welcome Brigadier General Ramirez.
Good afternoon, or as we say in Aggie land, howdy. It's my honor and my pleasure today to be with you and talk a little bit about the Salvation Army and what it means to me, but more importantly, what it means to the citizens of our communities who rely heavily on all the services that are provided by this great organization. I am a proud member of the Board of Directors of the Salvation Army of Bryan College Station. I've been so for about 7 years now, and I'm proud of that organization and what it does for our citizens every single day. And that allows me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the goodness of what they do and how it impacts the lives of people all across our state and all across our nation and all across the world, for that matter, in ways that people can't even begin to measure. So again, it's my honor to be with you today, and I look forward to talking to you a little bit about the Salvation Army and what it means to me. I'm also grateful to Captain Patrick and Laura Gessner, who are the commanding officers of the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak today. And I also want to highlight the fact that 89 cents of every dollar that goes to the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend goes directly to services supporting those in need. What a huge impact they're having in the Coastal Bend area with the Salvation Army. I also want to thank the event sponsor, Victory Building Team, and also the platinum sponsor, Mr. Tom Wimberly. Thank you so much for your support of this wonderful event today. The first slide I'm showing you is a quote. It's a psalm, Psalm 144:1. It's a psalm that we as soldiers use quite a bit, especially as we're prepared for deployment. And it goes, "Praise be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." That's one that many of us have used a lot as we prepare ourselves to go into harm's way. And I use that one because it's also used by God's army, the Salvation Army, every single day as they prepare to do war against those who are facing homelessness, poverty, alcoholism, abuse. The Salvation Army is there to go to war for every one of them and provide them a better life in many ways. This quote, this Bible quote, is one that I feel is extremely appropriate for the Salvation Army because of what they do every day to improve the lives of many, many citizens by going to war, by taking their hands and going to war against all those evils that afflict our communities every single day. So, thanks be to the Lord our God who prepares all of us for war against all those evils that affect our community every single day. The next slide talks to a speech by William Booth, who I'm sure all of you are familiar with, an English Methodist minister who founded the Salvation Army in 1878 and was their first general. And he changed the name from the Volunteer Army to the Salvation Army in 1878. And his legacy lives on today in the fact that the Salvation Army is now worldwide. It grew, it started in England, and it's spread now all over the world to include the United States and virtually every state in the United States. His legacy is the fact that over 15,875 officers and cadets are spread across 58 different countries around the world doing the Lord's work every single day. His final most distinguished address was to over 7,000 Salvationists at the Royal Albert Hall in London on May 9th, 1912. And it was during that speech that he gave his famous talk, I Will Fight. While women weep as they do now, I will fight. While little children go hungry as they do now, I'll fight. While men go to prison in and out as they do now, I'll fight. While there is a drunkard left, while there is a poor lost girl upon the streets, while there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I'll fight. I'll fight to the very end. Profound words from the founder of the Salvation Army, and words that are still applicable today in more ways than we care to think about. And it wasn't long. He died three months later after giving this speech in August 1912 at the age of 83. I will fight. We all have that mantle upon us to fight for those who need someone to fight for them. And that is what the Salvation Army does every day. That's what they represent. That's what they do for our citizens every single day. Fight hard to help those that need help the most. God helps those who help themselves, but He blesses those who help others. And those who serve with the Salvation Army, all those Salvation Army soldiers and leaders that are out there every day doing the Lord's work, God blesses them every single day. I firmly believe that as I see them do the work they do every day and the impact they have on the lives of so many others. And He's going to bless every single one of those who serve in the Salvation Army every single day. The next slide shows just a few snapshots of all the goodness that the Salvation Army does every day, from providing clothes, food, shelter, from emergency relief during disasters. The Salvation Army is everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're going to find the Salvation Army doing those tough tasks that need to be done to serve our citizens that are the most in need. The Salvation Army is there. No matter what happens, whether you're talking just people who are out of luck or natural disasters, the Salvation Army is there. They're the one organization you can always count on to be there when you need them the most. And that makes all of us very, very proud to be associated with that organization and what it stands for every day, especially in the lives of those who need it the most. The next slide talks a little bit about the responsibility we all have as either members of the Salvation Army or members of the board of the Salvation Army, and that we have to set an example that others would be willing to follow. And that example is one of selflessness, service, caring, empathy. We have to be that example for others that others would want to follow. And it's hard in today's world to be that example. Today, where everything is scrutinized heavily, especially on social media, it's hard to be that example. But one of the things that I talk about with the young men and women that I get the opportunity to lead every day is that I want you to be the example that you would want to follow. And that is a responsibility that all of us have every single day. Not easy to do. It's hard. It doesn't just end at the end of the workday. It goes 24/7. When you're in the Salvation Army, you are working around the clock to take care of those who need help the most. And you must be that positive example for them, because especially now at a time when we're dealing with a global pandemic, that positive attitude, that positive example that you can be can make the difference in somebody's life in a major way. So be the example that you would want to follow. This next slide is a picture that's very dear to me. This is my father's family. This is my family. These are my roots. That woman sitting there on the left, that's my grandmother. Now, my grandmother grew up in South Texas, had no formal education whatsoever. She raised 13 children. She was a housewife and a mother. That was my grandmother. That man on the far right in the white suit, that's my grandfather. My grandfather was a janitor at Rice University in Houston. And he used to catch the bus from the inner city, from the home where we grew up in the inner city of Houston, out to Rice University, where he swept floors and scrubbed toilets for a living. And that young man sitting next to my grandfather, it's my father. My father graduated from high school at age 18 and joined the Army 3 days later. He wanted to get out and see the world and get out of the inner city. That was in 1950. In June of 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. It was bad timing. My father was just a private in the Army at the time, and 3 months later he found himself in Korea, in the Pusan perimeter, with the other United Nations forces as they broke out of the Pusan perimeter and pushed the North Koreans completely out of South Korea, completely out of North Korea, and all the way into China. And in November 1950, my father, who was fighting with the 1st Cavalry Division, was sitting not too far from the Manchurian border on the Yalu River in a place called Unsan. In November 1950, my father's outfit got overrun after the Chinese entered the war. They came across with 300,000 soldiers. They overran my father's outfit. His platoon got cut off. They tried to fight their way back to friendly lines. They got ambushed. He was shot 5 times and was subsequently taken prisoner of war by the Chinese. He spent the next 33 months as a prisoner of war in a prison camp in the northern part of North Korea. He was repatriated in 1953, weighing 70 pounds, and went on to serve our country for 22 years, retiring as a Master Sergeant in 1972. Now, I tell you that story because every time I see that picture, I'm reminded of who I am and where I come from and what I stand for and the legacy that I carry forward every single day that I'm out working with others, that I stand in front of others as a leader. I never forget where I came from and what I stand for. Don't ever do anything to bring discredit to your picture, because every one of you has your own picture to remind you of who you are and where you come from. Don't ever do anything to bring discredit to your picture. Bring honor to your picture every single day. Now, I have 2 sons, and both of my sons served in the United States Army as well. In fact, both of them served in the 1st Cavalry Division like my father and like I did. And I used to tell them every day when they were putting on their uniform, I said, you know, as mundane as it may seem, when you put that uniform on in the morning, don't ever forget that everything you represent is on that uniform if all you have on is that name tag. Because that name tag for me is that picture. That name tag reminds me every day of that picture and where I come from and who I am. Don't ever do anything to bring discredit to your name tag or your name. Be the example that others would want to follow. This next slide is another one that it's another quote, one of my favorites, another one, it's a favorite of many soldiers everywhere, and it's Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. We, as members of the Salvation Army, or members of the board, or friends of the Salvation Army, should all be standing up saying, here am I, send me, when our community is in need. We need to be the ones stepping forward, taking care of our fellow citizens at a time when they need it the most. That is what the Salvation Army stands for. You will never see somebody wearing that Salvation Army uniform that isn't afraid to stand up and say, here am I, send me. We all need to be doing that every single day of our lives. And this is my last slide, and I don't put this up there to be morbid, but like it or not, one of these days, every one of us is going to have one of these over us. And when you look at a tombstone, you always see two things on that tombstone. You see the name and you see the dates. And there's always two dates on a tombstone, the date of birth and the date of death. So normally when you look at a tombstone, you look at the name, you say, okay, the guy's name is Ramirez, and let me do the math between the dates. He lived to be 179 years old, lived a good life, and you move on. Everybody that looks at a tombstone always overlooks one little thing on that tombstone, and that's that little line between those two dates that we call the dash. And why is that dash important? That dash represents every day, every week, every month, and every year of your life between that first date and that second date. That dash is your life. So I'm going to ask you today, the way I ask the cadets when they're getting ready to graduate and go off there and make their mark on life, how are you going to live your dash? What are you going to do with your dash? One of these days when they put one of these headstones over you, what are people going to say about your dash? And it's my hope that just like all those that wear that uniform of the Salvation Army, that you live a dash that has an impact, that makes a difference on the dashes of others, that you live a dash that you can be proud of, that others can be proud of because you served others well. That's the kind of dash that people truly care about. And that's the kind of dash that those that wear the Army, the Salvation Army uniform every day, that's the dash they live literally every single day, serving our fellow citizens that are truly in need around the world. How are you going to live your dash? Now, I would like to finish with a story that I hope will help bring all of this kind of back into focus. And it's one that I've told many, many times. Somewhat difficult for me to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. Anytime a soldier is killed in Iraq or Afghanistan, the Army sends a general officer to preside over the funeral. And when I became a general officer, I presided over 5 funerals. And it's one of those things you really hate to do, but it's also one of those things you're honored to do, to pay final respects to a young man or woman who has paid the ultimate sacrifice for this great country of ours. Well, when I became a general officer, and I was currently, at the time, serving as the deputy commander to a guy by the name of Dave Petraeus, I got a phone call saying, General, we just had a young officer killed in Karbala, Iraq, and we need a general officer to preside over his funeral. Would you be willing to do it? And I said, absolutely, I'd be honored to do it. So when you sign up to do something like that, they send you a packet that gives you all the information and background on the soldier whose funeral you're about to preside over. So I get this packet, and I'm learning about this young man whose funeral I'm about to go preside over. Now, this young man was a West Point graduate. He was the oldest of 3 sons. He had graduated from West Point, commissioned into the Army as a field artillery officer. I, too, am a field artillery officer. He went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, got his officer basic training done there, and then after he graduated, he reported to his first unit, which was a parachute infantry regiment in Alaska. Now, not long after he got to his unit, they deployed to Iraq. And it wasn't long after he got to Iraq that he was killed in action in Karbala. Now, his 2 other brothers, the middle brother was a junior at West Point at the time. And the youngest brother was in junior high, and all he wanted to do was go to West Point like his older brothers and be an Army officer. And the family was from a small town called Verdun, Nebraska. Heartland of America, right in the center of the country, Verdun, Nebraska. So I get all the details on when this young man's going to have his funeral service, and I head for Verdun, Nebraska. Now it's January, and it's freezing cold in Nebraska in the wintertime. So I pull into this small farming community. There's snow on the ground. It's about 10 degrees outside. It's bitter cold. And in the center of the town is an arena where they have events that go on during the year. And that's where they're going to do the memorial service. So I walk into this arena, this event center, and there are 1,500 people in there to honor this young man, including the governor, the lieutenant governor, and at the time, Senator Chuck Hagel, all there to honor this young man from that small community who died in service to our nation. So I go in there and I learn all the details about what's going to happen. The family comes out. Mom and Dad are my age. And I got to tell you, it struck me at that moment that these parents who were my age had just lost their oldest son. And it hit me hard because at the time I was the father of 2 soldiers. This young man had been on the West Point Glee Club that had sung the song Mansions of the Lord in the movie We Were Soldiers. And if you've ever seen that movie, at the very end, there's a very mournful Mansions of the Lord sung by this West Point Glee Club. Well, he was part of that. He sang that song for the movie. So, of course, they sang that song at his memorial service. And I got to tell you, it put a lump in my throat to hear that song, fully understanding that this young man was never going to be able to hear that song again. At the end of the service, I've got to present the young man's medals to the mom and dad. And I knew this was going to be hard because I knew nothing I said was going to have any meaning whatsoever to this family who was grieving over the loss of their oldest son. But I walk up there in my Class A uniform, fully understanding that I represent the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of Staff of the Army in my duties. And I walk up there and I hand them the medals to the mom and dad, and I try to say some words that might have some meaning, knowing I'm going to fail miserably. And probably the hardest part for me was to hand that mother that gold star. And if you know anything about a gold star family, you know that that's a family that has lost a son or daughter during time of war. And a mother that's wearing that gold star wears it, symbolizing that she has lost a son or daughter in war. Hard for me to hand that to that mother, but I managed to get through all that, maintain my composure, and when I was done with that, I slipped out the side door to get into my sedan because I had to get out to the gravesite, link up with the honor guard because that's where we're going to render final military honors. So I get in my sedan, which thankfully was heated because it was bitter cold outside, and we're headed out to the gravesite, which is about 2 miles down the road. So we head out down this ice-cold road, and all along the side of the road, on both sides of the road, are men, women, and children holding American flags. And I got a lump in my throat, and I looked at my driver. I said, you know, you won't see this on the 5 o'clock news, but you should, because this is our country. This is what makes our country great, that no matter what your political affiliation, you're still willing to come out in these terrible conditions to honor a young man that has died serving our country. Well, I get out to the gravesite. There's an honor guard there from the 82nd Airborne Division, strat group of young men, headed up by an Army Master Sergeant. I get out there, I meet all of them, shake their hands, and we start talking about what we're going to do. And within an hour, that whole entourage of 1,500 people comes out to the gravesite. Despite the weather conditions, they all came out there to honor this young man. The firing squad fires a 21-gun salute. The bugler plays taps. The honor guard takes that American flag off that young man's coffin. They fold it. They hand it to the NCOIC, and the NCOIC in turn hands that flag to me. And my last official function is I've got to hand that flag to that mother. And now normally when you do that, you say something along the lines of, on behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation, I present this flag to you in grateful thanks for your son's faithful service to our country. Something along those lines. I didn't do that. I got down on my knee in front of that mother. I handed her that flag, and I said, ma'am, I know there's nothing I can say that can assuage the loss you must feel right now. But I hope you know how grateful we are as a nation for the sacrifice that you and your family have made for all of us. And that when you see this flag every day, that you remember what a fine young man you raised and how we as a nation will always be grateful to him for his sacrifice for all of us, for our country and its citizens. And that mother, at that moment, a moment that as a father I could not even imagine, looked at me and said, General, thank you and all of our soldiers for what you do for our country every day. And don't you worry, I'm going to keep sending you my sons. Well, you know, rule number 1 is generals don't cry. Well, I had a bad case of allergies that day. I had to get up and I had to walk away because I didn't want that mother to see me cry. I had tears streaming down my face, and I didn't want her to see that. And those words haunted me for years. Well, fast forward to about 6 years ago, and I'm the Commandant of Cadets here at Texas A&M University, and I'm welcoming all the new cadets as they're coming in for the start of the school year. And I'm standing there shaking hands and meeting all these cadets and talking to them. And up walks this big strapping young man. And I shake his hand. I said, "How you doing there, son?" He goes, "I'm doing fine, sir." And I said, "What's your name?" He tells me his name. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Sir, I'm from Verdon, Nebraska." And I looked at him and I said, "Where'd you say you were from?" He said, "Sir, I'm from Verdon, Nebraska." And I was about to ask him his name again when I looked to his right, and there's that mother. Well, bad case of allergies that day as well. That mother and I hugged each other. We cried. We talked about that day and what it meant to both of us. And when I finally regained my composure, I took a step back and I said, "Why are you here?" And she said, "General, I never forgot what you said that day and what it meant to my family. And when I found out you were here, I wanted my son to come down here to be a part of what you have to offer as a leader. I wanted him to come be a part of this organization here at Texas A&M that created a leader like you." Well, I looked at that young man and I said, "Let me tell you something, young man. If we bring in 800 freshmen and 799 of them quit, you ain't going to be one of them. I will chase you to Verdon, Nebraska and drag you back down here so fast it'll make your head spin." And he told me that day, he goes, "Sir, I'm not going to quit." And he didn't. 4 years later, he graduated, commissioned in the United States Army as a field artillery officer like his older brother, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for his officer basic training. I had the honor of going to see him graduate from Fort Sill from his officer basic training. And 2 years ago, my wife and I had the honor of going to see him return from his deployment to Iraq with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Hood, Texas. That woman sent all 3 of her sons to Iraq. Unfortunately, the oldest one did not come back alive. Thankfully, the other 2 did. And it was a real honor for me to see him come back and welcome him home. And all through the time that he was here in the Corps, that mother was a guest of my family for at least one football game every year. Showed her what real football was all about, showed her what real Mexican food was all about, and even more importantly, showed her what real margaritas were all about. And when he graduated, we had a party at the house for him. And during the party, she walked up to me. She said, "Can we step outside for a second? I'd like to give you something." And I said, "Sure." So we walked outside, and she had a box in her hands. And she said, "I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this, and I think this is it. This is the moment where I thought you should have this." And she handed me this box, and I opened it. And in that box is a picture of me on my knees handing her that flag. I never knew anybody took that picture, never realized it, but here I was looking at that moment captured in time in this beautiful framed picture. And she said, "I've always wanted you to have this because of what you have meant to my family over the years and the impact you had that one day with what you told us." And that picture sits on my desk to this day, and I see it every single day. And it reminds me of 2 things. Number one, it reminds me that freedom isn't free. It costs. It's expensive. And those that pay the highest price are among our best and brightest, and we must never forget them. And the second thing it reminds me is we should never underestimate the impact you can have on someone else's life with just the smallest gesture. A kind word, a pat on the back to say you done good, a handshake to say thank you, a hug to say I'm proud of you, looking that young person in the eye and saying you can do this, I have confidence in you. Caring about people the way you would want them to care about you. And the reason I tell you that is because the Salvation Army lives that every single day. That's one of the reasons I truly enjoy being a member of that board, because of what those people stand for every single day, the example they set every single day for all of us to follow. Don't ever forget how important it is what the Salvation Army does for our fellow citizens every single day. We must never forget that, and more importantly, we must continue to support them in all that they do, because what they do truly matters. It has an impact. Just like a few kind words had an impact on that family, the things the Salvation Army does every single day has a huge impact on the lives of many, many others. It has been my honor to be a part of this ceremony with you today. I thank all of you for what you do every day for your fellow citizens in your community. God bless all of you. God bless the great state of Texas. God bless the Salvation Army. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
To the donors supporting the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend, hello, my name is Nayeli and I am a resident at the Salvation Army Family Shelter, along with my 3 children, Natasha, who is 16 years old, Luna, who is 12 years old, and Diego is my 2-year-old. We are here because we were unfortunately victims of domestic violence. It is difficult to leave your home with just a couple of suitcases, your children, and no money. And that's when I came across the Salvation Army to ask for help. The Salvation Army took us in and has made me feel welcomed and has supported us from the beginning. They have offered us a safe and secure living space to live where my children and I can rest and sleep comfortably knowing we are safe. They provide us 3 meals a day. The kitchen supervisor, Miss Belinda, is a good cook. She's always very attentive to our needs. Some of the additional support and services we've received is the assistance with the translation of documents, as well as interpretation services from the caseworker, Miss Maria Gonzalez, and the receptionist, Miss Deborah Velez. They are both very committed to their work. They always give more than 100%. Miss Tiffany Flores, our case manager, is always willing and would graciously drive us to our appointments in the Salvation Army vehicle. She offers us guidance and support if we have any questions or doubts. She is a person that loves her job. While at the Salvation Army, my children have enjoyed a wonderful playground, especially my son Diego. My daughters Natasha, Luna, and I have really taken advantage of the library at the shelter. Another great perk is that they have internet access and computers which allow my daughters to be able to complete their school assignments. Other wonderful staff members is Mr. Jesse and Miss Liz, the youth pastors who come by on Thursdays and checks up on us. They are such caring people. They bring the children activity books, crayons, markers, and other creative toys, and coloring books which helps them and distracts them from thinking of their past. I'd like to thank all the businesses and individuals that continually donate to the Salvation Army. They truly help change lives. Please never stop supporting this organization. As for me and my family, we will always be grateful for this organization and the support and love they've given us. I promise that when our situation gets better, my children and I will donate, volunteer, and help those in need. Salvation Army, thank you very much for your support. I am sure that God put you in our path so that we could have a better future. Thank you for giving to the Salvation Army. You have helped make a difference in our lives and in the lives of so many others. Thank you. Nayeli.
Hi, my name is Polly Harris, and I'm honored to be the board chair of the Advisory Board of the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend. What a wonderful organization to be a part of. We are all about giving a hand up and not a handout. I tend to be a very giving person, so this is home to me. We are building a new home. As you go down Crosstown, our new building is on Buford. Go take a look. We should be in it very soon. Thank you so much for listening and attending our Shield of Hope virtual fundraiser. Brigadier General Joe Ramirez was amazing. Thank you so much to all our sponsors and attendees. I'm asking you to please donate today. When you make a donation today, it directly benefits people throughout our community. We fight hunger, give warmth, and clothe the needy. Your donation helps change lives for the better. Please go to our website, the Salvation Army of the Coastal Bend, and make a donation today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you for those who made this possible. We want to say a special thank you to our major sponsors. To our event sponsor, we want to thank Victory again, and also our other sponsors. They have been listed in the program. This event could not have happened if it weren't for you. We want to also invite our advisory board members, and especially our development committee, who has worked tirelessly to make this event happen and for this event to be successful. So thank you very much. And also to General Joe Ramirez, did a great job. We are so grateful that he agreed to be our speaker for this event. And so we just want to thank everybody who is participating and helping us as the Salvation Army continue to do the most good in the Coastal Bend. A couple of housekeeping matters we just want to make you aware of is that the auction is still going on. As your auction items, there are still auction items that are up for bid, and you can bid on them right now or the next couple of days. On September 3rd, Thursday, September 3rd at 3 p.m., the auction will cease. And at that point, you will receive an email. If you bid on an item, you will receive an email stating whether you won the item or whether you lost on the bid. So please watch your email, but please continue bidding, because again, all the money that is raised through the auction and through the fundraiser through this event comes back here to the Coastal Bend Salvation Army. It does not go to any other place. And 89.5 cents of every dollar raised goes directly to impact the humans and those in services that are needed for programs. It doesn't go to a large administrative cost. We are grateful for that, and we pride ourselves on trying to keep our administrative costs low so we can help those who are hurting. So thank you for coming out today. Thank you for being a partner with us in making the Coastal Bend a better place to live and taking care of those who are in need. May God bless you. May God continue to bless the Salvation Army.